Hello, everybody, and welcome to some New Year's coverage of Premodern. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined today by Jared Doucette. Say hi, Jared.
Hi, Jared.
So, we have a recorded match between Phil Taylor on Reckless Sligh and then Fede Rico on The Rock. And the first deck list that I have up is the Reckless Sligh list. So this one is kind of an interesting take on the traditional red aggro deck that we see in pre-modern. So there is a lot of cards that we don't always see in pre-modern. So this one will be kind of fun to watch. What is your takeaway from this deck, Jared?
I mean, the core is similar, right? You still have the Lavamancers, the Pups, the Fanatics, the Ball Lightnings, the Lightning Bolts. And then it goes a little like different, right? Because you have more creatures, and specifically a couple of hasty ones.
Wait, hold on, hold on.
Viashino?
I'm getting audio issues. Can you? Okay, keep talking. It was kind of I was
Hello?
getting a bunch of feedback. Okay, it sounds all right now. I'll let you know if
Okay.
there's issues again. I'm guessing Chad heard
All
that,
right.
but
Okay.
okay, you can continue.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so yeah, definitely a couple of interesting decisions here. A classic card from yesteryear, Viashino. I've never known how to pronounce that, but the Sandstalker
Yep.
was a classic red card for a long time in especially standard and also extended burn decks, basically from back in the 90s. Classic 4 damage, 3 mana, repeatable source of damage that you can keep throwing at the opponent. Does need the combat zone, but a 4/2 hasty thing can, usually you cast it when you need it to get it for 4 damage. Cool card. I really like it.
Yep.
Um, and then what else we got? We got some Mogg Conscripts, which are another 2 power 1 drop that has a downside. The Mogg Flunkies, another overcosted creature, a 3/3, but again doesn't like to do anything alone. He's really likes to have friends with him. And then you also got, what do we got there?
The reckless charge and then the reckless abandon are
Reckless
kind of
Abandons.
so that's
Yeah.
two of the elements that I really like. So the reckless Sly is a sorcery that gives a creature +3/+0 and has haste, and then also has flashback. So
Huge.
what this can do is really help out with cards like the Mogg Conscripts and the Mogg Flunkies. So getting around their drawback. Uh,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like if you play, let's say, Flunkies on turn 2, you could easily play, like, let's say, a Pup or a Fanatic on turn 3 with the Reckless Charge, and it's still only being 2 mana and started getting in all of a sudden for 7 damage. You know what I mean? And whatever, or 7, 8 damage, whatever it is. So, and it speeds them up also if there's something like as a 2 drop or a 3 drop. Excuse me. You kind of have to play it as a 3 drop if you need to. So, yeah, it's a really cool card, and the flashback is huge as well.
Yeah, and then Final Fortune is definitely a very flashy card. All in of red, red, take an extra turn. After that, you lose the game. So a really,
I've tried to play it before. It's cool.
yeah, it definitely is pretty spicy, and this deck can be pretty explosive. So that extra turn, you can get a lot of damage. So
What's the card above the Sandstalker that's in the middle?
I think that's the Reckless Charge.
That's Reckless Charge, and then it's the Reckless Abandons are above the right Final Fortune. But what's the card above the middle Final Fortune? The side,
Uh,
the one to the left.
I can't see my screen so little.
Yeah,
I think it's
not
Fireblast.
sure what that card is.
Three copies of Fireblast.
Okay, there had to be Fireblast in
Yeah.
there. I would have to imagine. Okay, but 19 lands is something to keep in mind. Nothing higher than 3 with the Ball Lightnings and the Flashback Reckless Charge. I'd like to play 20 personally. I think just to be safe, but that's me. I don't like to get mana screwed in that way because sometimes you really need to hit 3 drops. Especially with the sideboard cards of like something like Sulfuric Vortex. You kind of like to hit those, but that's a personal preference maybe.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to bring up the other deck. It is a little more traditional. Where are we? Here we go. So for a Fede Rico on the Rock, so some of the things that come and change for the Rock, you can whether you're playing Birds of Paradise, whether you're playing Wall of Roots, whether you're playing Living Wish, whether you're playing Spiritmonger. Those are usually, and then I guess how many removal spells that you're playing.
Mhm.
Those are usually the differences that are in the list. Here, I guess the biggest thing is that there's Spirit Mongers and a number of copies of Corrosion Tusker.
Love Crows and Tusker.
So this one is kind of taking the place of Yavimaya Elder, and in exchange you get the ability to cycle, and then also have a big body attached for it for something like Recurring Nightmare to exchange a creature in play for a big 6/5. So, what is your takeaway from this list?
Not to mention, it's also a beast, which can be sacrificed to Ravenous Baloth,
Sure.
which is going to be huge. And so is Spiritmonger, another beast. So you got, I mean, this matchup is going to be all about Ravenous Baloth and how much life it can gain. That is, I would say, the number one card that Fede Rico is looking for almost always. And especially if you can start getting like recurring nightmare shenanigans going with, Baloths and Blastoderms and Tuskers and what have you. He can kind of go wild with just gaining a ton of life. But it's a very discard heavy list as well, with the 4 Duresses and 4 Cabal therapies. I was just talking to our common friend Anton Glans about the Rock recently, and he says he thinks people maybe put too much discard in. But I think in this matchup, if Duress becomes, gain 3 life essentially by taking away a burn spell, that'd be good. But the Reckless Sligh has a lot more creatures than your typical Sligh list, so I suspect that might not be the best card that he wants to see all the time.
Okay, so let's jump down to the match. So we do have this match recorded, and it was sent to us. So we have the ability to pause and maybe go over some of the lines. That's something that we might do if we find a situation that we really want to dive deep into. So we'll see how that goes. But that also means that we get to cut out some of the shuffling. So let's start things out. Phil is on the play, and he has mulliganed to 6. So we have Phil on the left, and then Fede Rico on the right.
Yeah, I was hoping to do my best, John Madden impression with the telestrator, but we can only do so much.
Sure.
Rest in peace, Mr. Madden.
Yes, it sounds disrespectful, but I think it was after I watched have you seen that documentary they made of him?
No, I'm about to watch it. I just got ESPN Plus, and it was a kerfuffle yesterday trying to get ESPN Plus for my streaming, but I do want to see it.
Yeah, I watched it one night and it was really good. And so I think I had internalized that he had passed already. So I was almost surprised when I had seen the news, because I think in my mind, because of that documentary, it felt like it was a tribute to him. So
right. All right. So I think they're both kind of starting off where they want to. I mean, turn 1 discard and turn 1 dude. Let's see what's available.
Yeah.
See, this was my concern with the Duress. No creature. It's all creatures.
Yeah, I think that's in this Sligh, it's still pretty likely to hit. There's still a good number of instants and sorcery, so it's pretty unfortunate for Fede. But yeah, in general, I think your Duress, you expect it to hit against Sligh, but
okay.
All right, so the Mogg Conscripts is a 1-mana 2/2, and it needs a creature to be cast that turn for it able to attack. So let me bring that one up.
Yep. I think he's got a nice. Fede Rico looks like he has. Excuse me, Phil looks like he has a nice curve going here. If he can get a 3rd land for that ball lightning, he's gonna be smacking in for a bunch next turn.
Yeah,
I think Fede Rico really wants to interact right now, or at least put up a wall. And that's what we get. Good one.
All right, so. And then the Mogg Flunkies needs to attack with another creature. So if there were no creature to come down, then unfortunately neither of the creatures for Phil would be able to attack. But we do know that there's at least the Jackal Pup.
But this is another thing that's good with the Sandstalker as another repeatable creature for something like Conscripts and also for Flunkies. There's good synergy there.
Yes.
Keep those guys moving, and also on the run of the curve too. I think you will see probably the Pup played if he doesn't have a 3rd land. I mean, if he had a 3rd land, I think he's just smacking it and be like, "Here's my ball lightning, let's go."
Yep.
But let's see. Guessing that means he missed. So pre-combat Pup, get in so you can get in for 2. Not terrible.
Yeah, it's still kind of rough though. I mean, that Wall of Blossoms is doing a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The old 0/4 is going to be a problem. Any X4 is kind of a problem with most Sligh lists, because they usually just do 3, and you don't want to go all in on the
Though a card like
Like a
Reckless Abandon,
Fireblast or something.
card like Reckless Abandon in this list does deal clean 4 damage, so that is something that,
That is true.
and because of the creatures that Phil has kind of lose some utility at some point, they're good targets for the Reckless Abandon.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely, yeah. If you got something like a Flunkies that is just by itself, it's an easy thing to sacrifice for the Abandon. All right. I was thinking about playing another creature, or maybe Reckless Charge. Oh, he's abandoning the pup. Okay, that's interesting. Take that out. Swing for 5. All right.
So that allows
Like
the conscripts to get in, because otherwise you think that maybe I guess because here then the issue is if he doesn't have like a land next turn or a creature, then he's not attacking at all. So I guess you might want to sacrifice the conscripts and give up 2 damage this turn. I guess then you don't get to attack with the Flunkies, so I guess you're kind of priced in. All right.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but yeah, it's about tempo, right? You can get in 5 right now, so go for it. I guess
Yeah, I mean, you kind of need to get that wall off the board because it's like otherwise you're just never going to be getting in for any damage.
Yeah, I'm really curious what that last card is for Phil because that can really determine it. If it's another Ball Lightning would be unfortunate if he doesn't ever get that 3rd land drop like I was talking about.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna say because of Cabal Therapy, but
oh, that too. That would be a problem too. Because that would be the easy thing to name. I mean, Fede Rico, Ball Lightning is the card that does the single most damage, right?
Yeah.
So I think almost all. Usually, when you play against Sligh, you're naming Ball Lightning a lot. I think.
Yep, I have Fede at 13, and so does everyone else. So I think we're good there.
Yeah, he took 2 from the conscripts, and then there's no fetch lands in green and black. So
yep. So
okay, another wall. That's good. This is gonna be a particularly good wall because this will be able to get him to ramp up to. Ooh, here we go.
All right, do the 3rd mountain, so Ball Lightning is coming in.
Yeah, this is huge. This is at least 8 damage to. I'm gonna guess he blocks he probably blocks the Flunkies. I don't think you give up your wall for just to save a few life.
Yeah, it would only be 2 extra life.
Yeah.
So I think you got to block the Flunkies and take 8, and then you're going to 5.
Or he blocks the Ball Lightning and takes 5 and it's at 8, but you lose your wall. I mean, it depends on the rest of his hand, but ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I feel a lot better at 8 than I would at 5. But he only has 1 card in his hand, but he does have a board.
Though I would feel a lot better at 5 than I would like at 4 or 3. So
yes, true. Yeah, it's going to take 2 cards, but he does have things on board. But both of those things do have downside because the conscripts can't attack unless you play a creature, and the Flunkies can't attack unless the conscripts can attack. So really, if he has a dud in his hand, for example, if that's a burn spell, it's not that bad.
Well, and even if it's just a creature, there's a Treetop Village on the other side, so the Wall of Roots and the Treetop Village could come up. So Wall of Roots could block the Flunkies on a future turn, and then the conscripts could get eaten by a Treetop Village. So, I mean, while Fede would be at a low life total, things could turn around, I guess.
They could. They definitely could. He's definitely deep in the tank on this one, and I don't blame him. I mean, it's like, what is that last card, and what is him? He's got a pretty good grip, right? He's got 4 cards at Fede Rico, so he's got some. I'm sure he has plenty of options here. Sure, he's wishing he could cast that probably a Vendetta for green mana instead of black right now.
All right, so we're still in this combat phase, right? Fede is still determining whether he wants to block I presume, the Ball Lightning or the Flunkies. I mean, correct. It just seems, I guess if you would, it just seems like losing your wall for 2 life doesn't seem like a very good exchange. Because the wall represents like a blocker on the next turn for the Flunkies again.
And the mana ramp. And the mana ramp could be very huge, Because even as an 0-4, it's going to block pretty much it's going to block everything except for, I guess, if it's the Sandstalker. It doesn't do well against the Sandstalker at that point. But if you get a mana ramp and another block out of it, I think that's pretty worth it. Whereas just, like you're saying, saving 2 more life, would be pretty inconsequential for what it could do. Yeah, I don't blame him thinking long and hard. I mean, he's got a lot of cards, a lot of options here.
Sure. I mean, this is probably like the decision where things kind of hinge, because he's either going to turn it around or he's going to end up dying. So
okay, so he agrees with us. Lose the 2 life or the 3 life, excuse me, and yeah, there you go. Okay.
All right, down to 5, but they're. I mean, I don't know if this position is bad for Fede. I mean, like, of all things, it seems like a board that he could stabilize from.
Yes, I agree.
I guess he would definitely need to put pressure on or get a Ravenous Baloth, because if neither of those happen, then I think Phil will eventually draw enough cards to finish him off.
This might be a deed. Deed would be good too.
There is a deed. Indeed, okay. A deed.
Indeed, a deed. So this can actually go all the way up to 3 on his opponent's turn. So if he does happen to play a Ball Lightning, then he can also, because he can use the Wall Roots on Phil's turn. All right, here we go. What do we got for a draw? It's actually like, not as much reach, that doesn't take the combat zone in this Reckless Sligh list. It's bolts and Fireblast, basically. This is what I was talking about. Now you can go up to 3. This is going to wipe the whole board.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, I guess there's never a spot like, how do you, I guess because you kind of, I've been trying to think if Phil ever needs to like slow play that Ball Lightning, but I don't know when it ever really gets better. Mr. T. Jones asked if there's life gain. Yes, he does have Ravenous Baloth in the main, so that is, and not only just that, but he has other beasts and then also Recurring Nightmare. So Fede, while is at 5, his life total might go up in the future.
Yeah, I mean, he's really looking for Baloth right now. I feel like that's what he just tapped for. Oh, Blastoderm. All right. It's pressure. It's a blocker for this turn. It might be a blocker for all 3 turns. Who knows? So you are in a precarious position.
Well, yeah, especially like when you know the list, that you know that Phil has a card like Reckless Charge, that any creature, it's not just like Ball Lightnings that you have to think about coming out haste. It could be, well, and the Sandstalkers, but like even a Mogg Fanatic or a Mogg Conscripts could come down with a Reckless Charge and deal a bunch of damage.
Yeah, Reckless Charge and Mogg Fanatic, that's lethal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Interesting. All right, well now Phil's just playing off the top. He needs a creature in a bad. Yeah, I think you get in there because both those have some really big downsides, and you might take the risk. Take the risk here. But especially if he has any of his removal in a sense. Like if he has, I think he has 2 main deck Vendettas, I believe. You also have the Treetop Village that can block, and so I think that seems like a decent attack given what the board state is on the other side and how restrictive it is. Because I mean, if he just rips a land, he can't do anything. There's a lot of dead draws.
We got chat's cheering for a Sandstalker to come down.
I mean, I'm all for it. Sandstalker would be sweet.
Well, we do have another creature land with Mishra's Factory that is, I guess he would have the option to block the Conscripts with the Factory and then the Treetop Village on the Flunkies, or I guess you could do it the other way around too. There's chump the Flunkies and kill the Conscripts if Phil has another creature next turn.
Yeah, or just take them both off the board and you lose 2 lands. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fede Rico is definitely deep in the tank in all these decisions, which I don't blame him.
How many cards? Can we tell how many that Fede has?
I think it's at least 3.
Okay. Well, because like Deranged Hermit, well, that would be a slam dunk. I think you just slam that and put up the shields.
That solves a lot of your problems.
I'm trying to think what card. I mean, I guess it's got to be whether you're tapping your mana or leaving up lands to block, or maybe he's just thinking about how he wants to block on the next turn if something comes down.
You know, if Spiritmonger was in his hand, you probably don't. Do you play that? Probably not. That's not enough blockers. Oh no, I mean,
You could. I mean, well,
you could.
yeah. So if it were a Spiritmonger, and Phil had a creature, and he attacks with both, you block the Flunkies.
Take 2.
Two.
Then you're in that 3 range.
And your Spiritmonger become a 7, I guess, because then you'd be attacking. Like, it depends what the creature is. Like, if it's a Jackal Pup, then that's not good enough. Because then,
You're right.
Then Fede can just attack with the Spiritmonger, the Blastoderm, the Manlands, and finish him off. But if
But
it were,
but if it's Sandstalker, a Sandstalker would be a problematic because that's another 4 damage, and that would be 9 coming at you, and you can only block one of them. But there's a Spiritmonger, like we said.
Yep.
Leave it up Vendetta mana. Okay.
I think it might be regeneration mana, but I guess either way,
Gotcha.
I don't think it'll come into play either way.
It would matter against like Ball Lightning, for example. But then you don't have blockers either.
Sure.
Then you die to all the other. Then you die to the other 2. So, I mean, obviously it wasn't Sandstalker. It wasn't Ball Lightning off the top. But yeah, I mean, Fede Rico can swing back for right now 11, plus 5 more on his Manlands in theories, right? Mm-hmm. So he's got the potential to swing for 16 and Alpha Strike this. Ooh, pass the turn. Okay, put that down to 1. I think you just go all in because the conscripts block.
Yeah, it can block. It can always block. Yep.
It can always block. Okay. But the Flunkies can't block unless it has a friend. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, I guess it makes maybe like jump blocking a little bit more difficult with the Flunkies because you kind of have to think ahead.
All right, so yeah, Fede has 2 cards in hand.
Okay.
Looks like.
Well, he has added another Treetop Village, so I guess if he's killing or attacking on the next turn, he's probably going to have a whole plethora of creatures. So
yeah, he'll have 5 attackers then. He could have 4 right now, and we don't know what's in Phil's hand, but like a bolt would kill a treetop. That'd be a problem, but I'm sure he wants to just send it to face. If he does attack now, if it doesn't attack for lethal, then Phil's just like, fine, take it, right? So he has to, if he's going to attack, he has to basically either put get some damage in, specifically probably with that Blastoderm to get more value out of it, or just sit back and wait for another turn. But then it also gives Phil another turn to draw more burn spells.
Well, I think if you are just attacking with one creature, I think it's better to attack with Spiritmonger because you deal. I mean, like
could deal 6, right?
6, and it would get a counter most if it does get blocked, but I don't think it changes the math very much either way.
Right. So if you attack with Spiritmonger, then puts him at 8, right? It wouldn't change the math too much. What's a better blocker? I mean, they're both pretty good blockers, but pretty big. Yeah, I just Fede just loses to 2 burn spells if that's what happens to be. He has nothing to way beat that. So that's what he has to consider because Phil does have 1 in hand. And does he put enough pressure on to potentially get around it?
I'm trying to think. So I guess he's trying to figure out what cards Phil could keep in his hand. Like a card like Reckless Charge, Reckless Abandon,
Land,
Lightning Bolt, Fireblast.
He would have played a creature. A creature would have came down. I'm almost sure of it, right?
Yes. I guess it would.
Fireblast.
I mean, well, if we said it, if a non Jackal Pup creature, he wouldn't have played a Jackal Pup necessarily. Right, no, I guess because he. But yeah, so I think Fede is just trying to figure out what is most likely in his hand and what cards he loses to, and trying to minimize the number of cards that he can die from. Because I mean, it's like he's in a good position, I think, from the spot, but one like misstep could give Phil an opportunity to steal the game.
I don't like this attack.
So this is a big attack, but the problem is it's not
not lethal.
It's not lethal, so it's kind of like, I guess it does make future attacks a lot more difficult, like especially because the Treetop Villages could trample, and if he's attacking for 11 here.
I mean, this game's over in the next 2 turns. I mean, it's going to be Phil's turn and Fede's turn, and then I don't see this game going beyond those 2 things.
Yeah, so I think
if open to a lot. He still has 2 blockers. He does have a factory and also a Treetop that can activate, and maybe some other card we don't know about in his hand. But his removal is Vendetta, which will deal himself damage. So if there is a Reckless Abandon or something else, or a Fireblast in his hand, then he's dead. You know, because if he tries to do removals. Ooh, okay, packed it up. He must have not drawn anything.
Okay.
Well, okay.
So the Rock player, after going down to 5 on that early turn, then the Sligh deck just kind of petered out. So now we get to talk about sideboards. So I'll pause this and we'll jump over to our decks and we can look. I guess the first deck I have up is the Rock. What changes for the sideboard plan for this deck?
Okay. I think you want Smother as another removal spell for sure. Plague Spitter, I don't think you want to clock yourself. Haunting Echoes isn't coming in. Gigapede's not. This isn't it. Plague, no. I mean, you could say what goblins with flunkies, fanatics, conscripts. I don't know. It's not killing them. It's just making them smaller, except for the fanatic. Diabolic Edict, I think you're going to want that, because that, especially, you know, with all the restrictions of like flunkies, right? Say you have like, you know, get to stop something from attacking. So I think you're definitely going to want Smothers and the Edicts to come in. What do you think?
I definitely like Smothers. Edict is kind of a weird card in this matchup because there's slow likely that there's going to be a Mogg Conscripts or a Mogg Flunkies hanging about, so it's not as good about like getting like a ball lightning. I guess it's maybe indifferent. Maybe you just want it because it's more interaction and you're taking out. I don't know what cards you're taking out, but
I think Duress could come out.
Okay.
I think you want to, and Vendetta's good against
the Sandstalker. It's fine. I think it's
Sandstalker, Pup, Ball Lightning. So you keep that in. I think.
Well, it also could really change like with a Flunkies on board. Like if Phil is going for like a big attack, like if he plays a creature, gives it haste, and is gonna that's the creature to make a Flunkies go. Like Vendetta gets really good there. That like you're able to. So I think Vendetta is still fine. It actually I think is a little bit better against Phil's deck than it is against most of the Sligh versions.
I would agree with that.
All right,
so let's. You think taking out the Duress though? Taking out a couple of Duress for at least Smother?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that's probably the card I would cut the most, or like the easiest cut. So I do like that. All right, so the Sligh deck, we have that. So Tormod's Crypt, I wouldn't bring that in for like recurring nightmare shenanigans. There is Price of Progress. I'm trying to think of how many non-basics that he has. There would be 4 Treetop, 4 Llanowar Wastes, like 3 Mishra's Factory, and there might be like some City of Brasses. That's like kind of like the point where it's like I don't know how much expected damage you can anticipate that Price Progress dealing. So I think those could come in, but I'm not sure. And then the Sulfuric Vortexes I think are the card I'd be looking at. I also like Pyrokinesis, I guess. You might just be able to trade a card to get rid of either a wall or a Baloth, or catch like a Treetop Village. Like if like you might be tapped out and you might be able to get a Treetop Village or something. Like I think you need to take out cards like Final Fortune, but I'm not sure.
So do you want to attrition yourself? Like, do you want to take the 2-for-1s of a Reckless Abandon or something like that? Like, or do you want to make sure you don't lose on like? I know Sligh isn't a card of vintage deck, but like, what if you I mean, how good is it? I know it's great reach, and it's definitely good, like, you know, to end the game quickly. But you might be willing to cut one of those. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because you definitely want the vortexes. You need the vortexes because of Ravenous Baloth. You need to turn off the life gain.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering, like, what else could come out?
the interesting tension with Reckless Abandon is like Pernicious Steed, because
Mhm.
the Rock is going to want to sweep away the board. So if that happens and you didn't use a Reckless Abandon on a bad creature, then like you kind of have to draw another creature to use that Reckless Abandon. So maybe it comes out, but I'm not sure. Because yeah, I do like the vortexes. Certainly like the vortexes. Beyond that, I'm
Mhm.
not sure. I think I would take out the Final Fortunes because it isn't just a reliable. Like I think you want that against like the combo decks, or the that you just when you or when you're gonna have like a board presence where like if you Final Fortune, you might not be getting in any damage at all if there's like a wall of roots and a Mishra's factory on the other side. So I don't think Final Fortune is a card you want. But
Totally agree.
beyond that, I'm not exactly sure. It could be I don't know, Mogg Fanatic, or maybe the Reckless Abandons, or I don't know. Not exactly sure. So I will figure out. Let me figure out when this next game is going to start. I'll jump to that, and then we will be able to start for the second
So,
game.
sounds good.
Uh, all right. I think I'm close here. All right. So here, Phil has once again mulligan to 6, but he's on the play again, and he's going to start with a Mogg Fanatic.
Shuffles be gone. We go right to the action. Here we
Yes.
go. All right, Fanatic's fine. I mean, against the birds list of the Rock, it would be much better, but it's still like I think you need to start the repetitive sources of damage, and it has some utility. I mean, the fact that it can attack to turn on all the other things,
Mm-hmm.
like specifically flunkies later. Yep. Poke for 1, and dude. Okay, good dude.
Yeah, we haven't talked too much about the Grim Lavamancer, but the ability to either finish off. I guess it doesn't work that well, like the Mogg Fanatic attacking into like a Wall of Blossoms, but it could finish off a creature, or just once the walls are come down, you're able to chip away over several turns.
Yep. Or it's the reach. The repetitive reach is really probably its biggest attribute. And speaking of the wall, here it is. I mean, you could take down the wall. You could, if he attacks and he blocks, then do the damage because obviously the wall doesn't have any. And then you can get in to shock it down or just roll with your homies. Here we go.
All right, so this Wall of Blossoms is blocking a 1/1. Oh no, it's blocking the ball
Uh,
lightning. Okay.
I think that makes sense because I mean, saving yourself 3 more damage is probably more important there
All right, so
than
he took
just
4.
blocking one. Yeah, 2 trample and 2 in the attack zone, so she'd be at 15, I think.
Yeah. So really respecting. I mean, I think that makes sense with the Wall of Blossoms. Like it might be a little bit different if like the creature suite was like Mogg Flunkies and Mogg Conscripts. Well, and if you didn't have
Oh,
another wall to play, but
right. But by the way, Phil's at 18 because he took a pain from the Barbarian Ring.
okay.
All right, that's a good wall. Could still play another 2-drop if he wanted to, or if he has an option. All right, probably still has some Smother or Diabolic Edict mana up. That's good.
Well,
That's probably why he left that black open.
I think you would use Smother. Maybe you wouldn't use Smother. You might save it for Sandstalker or Ball Lightning. But if it were
Yeah.
Edict, I guess it doesn't really make a difference when you would use it. So I don't know. All right, the 1/1s come in.
Yeah, I think this is not the attack Phil wanted on turn 4. He wanted something a little bit more impactful. He just takes 1. Okay, conscripts and no, just conscripts.
Yeah. No, and just a Mogg
Nope.
Conscripts.
Okay. All right, now he can get the 4 mana going. I think Fede has a good list of the Rock. I think it's pretty solid. I think he knows what he likes to do. I think the key is also playing 24 lands. I think Rock is a deck that needs to keep playing lands especially because it needs to feed the man lands, get up to your 4 and 5 drops.
Well, it
really
does.
important.
Yeah, it does a good job of also utilizing that mana. Like you have
Yeah.
a higher curve, but then you also have the Treetop Villages and the Mishra's Factory that you can sink mana into. You have Recurring Nightmare. I mean, if you have Yavimaya Elders or whatnot, or even just like a big Corrosion Tusker, definitely ways that you can take advantage of having a bunch of lands in play. So yeah, it is really important. I like the decks, the rocks that are playing 24, 25. I might have even, I don't know if I played a list with 26. I think I've played 25. But yeah, lots of lands I think are good in the rock.
Yeah, because the more lands you can play, the more utility lands you can play, so you get more value out of them. If it's more man lands or if it's Dust Bowls or Wastelands or whatever. I think Fede does have a couple of Wastelands in this deck, which are pretty solid. I mean, not very good in this matchup, but in general. Again, the Deed coming down, looking to wipe the entire board again.
Well, and even like if you don't need to deed this board right here, right? Like
No,
you think if no creature comes down, I guess how many turns are you going to take damage from Grim Lavamancer, I guess is the real concern, but there's not that many cards in the graveyard. So just an attack with a Mogg Fanatic. Yeah, that's going to get blocked.
yeah. Just make him do it, whatever. If you play another, I think if he plays another creature or something, definitely blows it. I think this is still fine. He'll take 3 on the way out, but he's got the initiative, and he didn't lose his own wall in order to use the deed.
So this is a deed for 1. I mean, how much? The thing is, like, I don't know if it saves you really that much life. Like going forward, like
I mean,
the threat of it, like being on the board, is actually pretty good. I guess, like also, I mean, Fede might want to tap out, and then it's not as good or something. But the threat of deed being on the board sometimes is pretty powerful.
yeah, I agree.
All right, so Mogg Fanatic will deal an additional damage, and then Grim Lavamancer will deal 2 more. So down to 11, Fede goes.
Still has his wall though, which is nice.
And the board's cleared. I mean, like, this looks pretty good. I guess I think there's 4 cards in Phil's hand. Or maybe maybe it's 3.
3. I think it's 3. Looks like 3 cards. Yep. Hit your land drops. 3 mana. Another deed? Oh.
Rich says that the 45 degrees tapping bothers me. I don't know. It actually looks kind of cool. I also the way that Fede has his camera positioned, I think actually works really well for my layout. I think it's harder to look like from a whereby screen, but when I have it oriented, I think it actually looks pretty neat. So
it's very dynamic, that's for sure.
Yeah,
it doesn't give him a lot of room to play creatures though. It's just very limiting as far as the amount of space he has that's on camera. But okay, Baloth is the worst nightmare for Phil. Phil needs Vortex in a hurry.
And that would be like a reason why you might have wanted to save the deed, because like if a Vortex comes down here, then you're kind of in trouble. Or I guess it puts you in a tricky situation of whether you want to sacrifice the Baloth right away or if you're going to try and race.
Yeah, it puts you in a really tricky situation.
This looks, I mean, the Baloth in play, you're at 11 life, there's nothing on the board. This looks really good.
Yep, I agree. And he still has cards in hand, so he could start dropping other beasts or something, and then all of a sudden there's more pressure and more life to gain.
So
if a second beast comes down before a Vortex, then I mean it's just 8 life is just too much for Phil to come back from. I'm sure of that.
I guess one thing to note was how Fede used his mana. He chose to put a counter on the Wall of Roots as compared to tapping a land. So I guess that is hinting that he has a 3 mana spell, right? Because what 3 mana spell would he want to be playing?
Tusker, maybe? Cycle Tusker in a turn?
Okay. Interesting. So didn't get you. So hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't seem like you needed to put a counter on the wall there. I think you want to keep that as of. So is there 2 counters on the wall now? I think, or just 1?
There might be 3. I
3.
don't.
If there's 3, then that has the Lavamancer next turn. Be a bummer. But yeah, I think it's time for the Baloth to start coming in. You feel pretty safe having a Baloth that's just like being able to sack. I mean, it's not like they're stifling that for life or anything. I was talking about this with Rich Shea the other day, the good doctor, and about Ravenous Baloth and how like what a perfectly fine creature that is. You know what I mean? Just good stats, a good ability, good wording of the sack of beast as opposed to sack itself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then you compare that to something like that's out today, like Questing Beast, which is the same stat line and same mana cost, but has like 17 abilities. You're just like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? You're like a 4/4 with a good ability used to be a good card. You know what I mean? And then you just had to add. Yeah, again, it's just that's a novel and a card.
Yes.
What else does this thing have?
Yeah.
I'll take your Ravenous Baloth and raise you like a Baneslayer Angel and also like a whatever else.
I have been attacking with this questing beast. I've been drafting the vintage cube on Magic Online.
Have you?
Yes, and I pretty much try and draft Storm every time, and then I usually end up. I think I've drafted Storm like 40% of the time, and then the other times I feel like I'm drafting a green deck. So I've had a number of questing beasts. Though I kind of want to make a cube where you still can do broken things, but all the creatures are just like pre-modern era cards. So this questing beast would have to be a Ravenous Baloth. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just want an excuse of having to storm off more. All right, we got a Pernicious Deed coming back down. So this
It's popping it now. Why? I mean, okay. I guess it's sick now. So you're just at 10. I think I would have held that because you could have popped that for 3 if again Vortex or Ball Lightning comes down. He must have a Smother or Diabolic Edict in hand. He feels pretty comfortable being able to leave open against the Ball Lightning. And the Baloth gives him a lot of confidence too, for sure.
Yeah. Well, also that was a like before blocking, so I guess it was a way to make sure that your damage was getting through. Because obviously a Mogg Fanatic could block and then shoot. Okay, so we do have Sulfuric Vortex. So here is the decision for Fede whether he wants to get rid of his clock and gain 4 life. I don't know if you can.
Okay, he has 3 cards in hand, and Phil has 1.
Also, so how many cards are in Phil's graveyard? Because Barbarian Ring, there's 2 Barbarian Rings.
I count 5.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, a Fireblast would be very good. I think that would be...
Fireblast would be excellent.
Because that would fuel the graveyard, turn on both the Barbarian Rings. It would just kill Fede.
Interestingly, it's still a 3-turn clock for Phil to kill. Because he can... So the Vortex will do... Excuse me, for Fede to kill. So the Vortex will do 2. So it's basically he attacks for 6 a turn. I mean, he's being at 13, he has that extra 1 life. So he'll still need 3 attack steps if he doesn't add to any more pressure, if he decides not to gain the life. So that's like a little... I mean, that takes some time. But also, like... This Vortex isn't going to give you a lot of time. This gives, a lot of... Ooh, okay, so he doesn't sacrifice it. Interesting. Okay, so now he's down to 8. Now, Phil has to feel pretty good. Again, if he gets to untap and that last card is Fireblast, that's it, right? He floats the 2 mana.
Yeah.
He hits him for 4, and then the 2 Barbarian Rings. Okay, yep. Down to 9. 7 on upkeep. All right, you got to add to your clock, Phil, or should you just give him too much turn? Is that Blastoderm?
Yes.
Okay, so that's... All right, so Phil has this draw step, right?
If that was in your hand, would that be more of a reason to sack the Baloth to the
I think so.
Because then you have a clock. I don't know. I didn't check the math that much, but I mean, it pretty much comes down to this turn, I think, for Phil, right? He's
Definitely
either
Phil, yeah. He needs to do 6 damage.
he's he's counting cards in his graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other card that puts? I guess if you had 2 bolts,
2 bolts would be enough because that'd be 6,
Well-
and then he takes the 2 in his upkeep.
bolt and a Mogg Fanatic, that would be 4. Okay, Fireblast. This should just
There it is. Yeah,
should be nice.
just do it. There you
Nice
go.
and easy.
7, 2 mana,
Yep.
4 damage.
There's
Boom.
a clean 8
Nice
damage.
job, Phil.
There was even Sulfuric Vortex to deal an extra 2, but that was not needed.
Yep. Nice job.
All right.
Fireblast can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. Yes, it can.
Just,
Right.
specifically filling the yard for threshold is huge.
I'm gonna jump over the deck list real quick. And yeah, Phil lost the first game, so he just won the second. So, all right, I will figure out when this third game needs to start, and then we'll be able to jump right back into the action. So, did we see any sideboard cards from either player? Oh, we saw Sulfuric Vortex.
We saw Vortex, and,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we expected. We didn't see anything from Fede Rico, but I think this I think we probably might have gotten it right. I hope they show us at the end of the game to see if we got that right. But I think game plan is kind of the same. I think we were right that he too aggressive with those, that especially that second Vortex. That second deed. That second deed, I think he popped way too early. I think he could have bought himself some time specifically to play around Vortex, because you had to feel pretty comfortable having a Baloth, and even if he is like kind of hitting you with Lavamancer every once in a while, I think you can be pretty confident with the Baloth. That's giving you some backup, especially if he had that Blastoderm.
Yeah, it's tricky to do all those kind of math, that kind of math in that spot. But yeah, I think the biggest decision point of holding the D, and then also that one turn of if you sack that Baloth to game 4, that's assuming that the Blastoderm was in your hand. Because if it wasn't, then I don't think you would make that play.
No.
But
yeah, and not knowing the player's hands, obviously, we don't have complete information. We're just going off of what we think the situation at the time. So.
Okay, so we are starting game 3. I'll reset these life totals.
I'm excited we're getting to game 3.
And Treetop Village is the lead.
Yep, that's I think pretty much what Fede Rico wants.
Mogg Conscripts. All right, so this one's better than the turn 3 one that he had the last game, or whenever it was.
Much better. Yeah.
But if there's a wall here, then that Mogg Conscripts looks a little bit foolish, but...
Agreed.
All right, I mean, like, this seems great for Fede. I mean, you have a Treetop Village and a Wall of Roots, so you have good mana, and your land is that's going to be able to turn into a creature, and you're kind of shutting down. All right. You always
block and bolt. Sure, get it out of there.
I mean, if you had a Ravenous Baloth or a Blastoderm, maybe there's...
You don't do that.
I was say, like, then that could be a situation. I guess.
If I had a Baloth, I want that down as soon as possible. I think it's bigger than everything, and I mean, a backup wall doesn't hurt. But it's a kind of worse wall to have on the board.
Yeah.
But he's still hitting his land up, so maybe this turn 4 will be just fine. Turn 4 Baloth and Blaster are still okay. All right, here we go.
So Fede kind of tapped the swamp and then undid it. So does that mean Vendetta?
My guess is it probably meant Duress or Cabal Therapy. If he had Cabal Therapy, I would have definitely said Ball Lightning, going into his turn 3, But I'm guessing he didn't, or it might have been Duress. It might have been still hanging around in the deck. Here we go.
Rich says, Orcish Conscripts looks really foolish. Great art, but unplayable. I don't remember what the Orcish Conscripts does.
I remember it being worse.
I do remember the art, but let me... I think that one was from Ice Age.
It feels like an Ice Age card. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't... I mean... There are
They were still
worse...
figuring creatures out then.
There's worse cards, but yeah. Right, we're cycling Corrosion Tusker.
Main phase, because
So-
he really wants that. He wants to hit his land drop. That's clearly he doesn't have the land in there. So he wants to hit a land drop.
I think Rich often refers to the Corrosion Tusker as the green factor fiction. I guess I usually go for the green divination, but and then Yavimaya Elder is the green ancestral recall though.
They are both. I'm trying to play the rock right now. I've been kicking it around, and I decide which one I like better, or if I like both. You know, like Elder, like it gets on the board and gets you value, but the Tusker is an instant, and like there's a lot. I don't know. There's kind of a. I'm not sure which one's better or which one you want. Ooh, the Vortex, huge.
I'm an Elder fan. I like sacking that guy down Cabal Therapy to flash it back. But okay, yeah.
He definitely loves to be sacked.
Yeah, that Duress was very good.
Mm-hmm. That is a very good duress. Okay. Yeah, I think you really wanted to hit that fourth mana. I bet you he's got some Blastoderms and Baloths coming down now. This is gonna hurt though. This is gonna feel uncomfortable.
Ooh, this Wall of Blossoms is blocking the ball lightning, so he's gonna take 6.
6, yeah. 2 trample, 2 from the conscripts. And so is the Barbarian Ring. He's probably gonna get 2 more from the Lavamancer. I mean, this could be Deed for 1, which would be great. With being at 12 life, I think deeding now would probably be okay. Just because you don't want to take any more damage. But you don't have to do it right now, necessarily. But you're going to take 2 more from the Lavamancer no matter what. That's something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to main phase it. I think you really just want Baloth, though. Baloth had a steady stream of beasts. Or Green Nightmare. Another fun card, too.
Well, I would have to imagine he doesn't have... I guess I was going to say his block might be different if he had Recurring Nightmare. But I guess the Conscript still would be able to finish off with a Grim Lavamancer activation, would be able to kill the wall, so...
main phase? Okay.
So this Vendetta is going to take out the Grim Lavamancer. It's going to shoot him on the way out. And then he's going to lose life. And then he does have a Baloth.
Okay, as long as this isn't a ball lightning, it's fine. That Vendetta's fine. I guess you're saving yourself 2 life from him getting another activation out of the Lavamancer this turn. But, you know, like we said, Sandstalker or ball lightning is a lot scarier, right?
Yes.
Like that. I would much rather Vendetta that, because the Vendetta hits the toughness, right? So just taking 1 from this ball instead. I mean, you block conscripts, you sack it for 4. You're still taking 8, so you're at 5.
Well, Fede didn't know about that ball ending, right?
No, he didn't. I don't think so.
So I mean, like, there's no guarantee that it's in Phil's hand. So, I mean, you might just be worried about. And then also, I mean, like, if the Grim Lavamancer's in play, like blocking with the Ravenous Baloth isn't that great either. So, all right. Well, there's another one.
Yep. Oh, he's counting out that graveyard again. Oh, I mean, if he gets priority, he might want to wasteland this Barbarian Ring because he's got 1, 2, 3, 5 cards in the graveyard. I think you might want to get rid of this thing now. I just saw that.
One, two, three.
Yeah, I would say I might fire off that ring before
Or that Wasteland
that Wasteland.
before the Mogg.
Let's just get
Okay.
smother.
Okay, he's
get smother in.
using the mana. Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Because you're gonna put a card in the yard, then all of a sudden he's got that ring turns on. All right. Ooh. Oof. Tough spot. So if you go smother, it must be a smother and edict. So he's definitely blocking one of them, smothering the other one, or edicting. Okay, fine. Before blockers. But you're feeding the yard. You're gonna turn on that Barbarian Ring. Now that ring's on, and it's gonna resolve because obviously the Wasteland's tapped now.
Yeah, this
is precarious. I know you can still gain 4 life, but this is close. This is really close.
There's a price of progress with this Wasteland tapped. Is it?
Yeah.
How many other non-basics are there?
I don't think many others. I think just the one. Okay, he's getting 4 out of 8, but now this is all before blockers, I think. So he's going to take 4. So he's going to be down to 1. He's probably down to 1 or 2. He's down to 2 after this.
Okay, he took 4 from the price of progress. And then he goes to 3.
Oh, then he has. Oh, he sacrificed the fanatic to the whatchamacallit.
This was all before blocks, so
yeah. Oh man.
Okay, well
played.
Yeah, that very interesting sequencing, very tricky, and it seems like Phil came out on top on there, and of that exchange, and yeah, that I mean I wasn't thinking about price of progress at all, so
Pop's a hell of a card, man. Card's awesome. Like in the right matchup, it could just be it could be 10 damage. You know what I mean? It's really good. Oh, he brought in Naturalize. Interesting.
Oh, I mean that's a way to answer the
Vortex.
But does it hit anything else? Because are there curse scrolls?
No curse scrolls, no.
Okay.
Oh man.
So we'll just watch the players decide board, and maybe we can get a little bit of information on what they did. So we saw the Sandstalkers come out. Interesting. I guess, I mean, like, Sandstalker's a little bit awkward against Wall of Roots, but it's, like, pretty good against, like,
everything else?
Baloths and Wall of Blossoms.
And good for your conscripts, good for your flunkies.
Yeah.
He definitely brought in the vortexes, and maybe we're thinking, and he brought in 2 pops. So he had to take out. We were right that he took out the Final Fortunes. We weren't totally sure what he was going to take out.
So it looks like Fede had taken out a couple duress.
Couple Cabal therapies. 2 duress, 2 Cabal therapies, and okay. And a recurrent nightmare. Interesting.
Cool. So I'm just gonna check the chat. We're gonna figure out. Oh, update the score. Sure, I can do that.
Well played by both. I think Phil really sequenced that last turn very well.
Mm-hmm.
And put Fede in a position all before blockers that really made it difficult for him to navigate it. If he, I mean, he had Pop. He had a lot on his side, but I was wondering if maybe which way it would go, because there was a lot that could change with the instance and the reach. So, really exciting. I think Fede might be kicking himself for that Vendetta play a little bit. I leave that up for ball lightning, but I don't think he knew the ball lightning was there. But that's.
Yeah, I don't think I can really fault him for some of those things. It was just I don't think it was even necessarily a mistake. Like I think like if that Grim Lavamancer stays in play, then like blocking with the Baloth is really really awkward. There's a lot of things. So yeah, it looked like bad the way things turned out. Like a ball
Yeah.
lightning came down immediately after. But if the Grim Lavamancer's in play, I think things are still pretty tough from Fede's perspective.
Oh, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
I think you probably risk 2 more damage to yourself and maybe do it end a turn or that. Possibly. I mean, he had to make a choice and he did. This whole entire game is about making to a line or picking a line, and that was the one he chose. I'm not saying it turned out wrong, but like he didn't know that. What really it's all playing with around things. That's what makes the game so dynamic and interesting. Is that it's just you don't have complete information. This isn't chess. You have one information of what your opponent can do.
Yeah.
At every turn. This is why it's so exciting. It's so interesting and dynamic. So, right. It's just I don't know what it was. About how lightning played versus where the clock is. But I think I think that was an interesting decision, and it didn't turn out right for him this time. But at the same time, it could have bear fruit in other ways. Other lines. It's just the dynamics of this game are just really cool. So anyway.
Yeah, so wrapping up, I guess since this was a recorded match, this happened. I mean, this happened, I think, in early December. I have just gotten around. Part of my motivation was the finals of the November monthly will be played tomorrow, and Andrew Walker will be streaming that. So I'm reading the information. He's going to be streaming the best of 5 finals at 7 a.m. Pacific time. So that would be 10 a.m. Eastern. Or 1600 CET. He says with a brief rain delay possible. I guess maybe there's a little bit of flex time in there. So 10 a.m. Eastern. Be on the lookout for a stream from Andrew. He is the OS Kurt Ape. So I would, if you're not following him, I would check him out and follow him so you can get a notification when he goes live. So
who's Phil playing against? Do we know what Phil's playing against?
Phil is playing against Gabe Farkas, which I don't know what deck Gabe is on though.
That Gabe Farkas, he's on a run.
Yeah. So let me see. Oh, and then also that Andrew will also be streaming the best of 5 finals for the Premodern Super Gauntlet. That is between the I know one of the decks. I don't know the other one. So I guess I'll hold off in case maybe people haven't seen the other matches. But yeah, the finals. So if you weren't familiar with the Super Gauntlet, there were 64 different pre-modern decks. They were all played in a single elimination tournament, and now they're down just to 2. And so there will be a finals for that. And Andrew will be streaming that at... That says...
I think you said 10 a.m. tomorrow, Eastern.
Yeah,
7 Pacific.
I don't know if he's doing it back to. I think he's doing it back to back. So I think it's the monthly finals, this November monthlies, and then I think after that will be the Gauntlet finals, I believe.
Yeah, I think they announced the Gauntlet finals. I think it's between a Bobble Sligh versus Red, White, and Blue War Angel Patriot Angel Facey Slaughter thing. So
no, Elliot,
yeah,
this is a match from the November monthlies. I think it's just or like we do the pod play through the month of November, and then the playoffs happened in December. And I think with just the holidays, it got really delayed. So we're just wrapping up the November ones, but there are the December monthlies. I think they are in top 8 right now, and so those are getting played as well. So Andrew does stream a lot of those as well. So if you're interested in watching any of those, again, you should be following his channel. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you, Jared, for jumping in with us and going over this match. Yeah, it's always good to get some good red magic in, and I like watching the Rock play. I guess that match was really dynamic. There were really some interesting points.
A lot of ways it could have gone.
Certainly with some games against Sligh, you feel like you can't do anything, but there were a lot of decision points in that match, and so
For sure.
really cool one to see under the lens. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone who's able to tune in, and thanks to everyone watching the YouTube video. But for now, I guess I'm going to say goodbye. And until next time, take care.
Bye-bye.